Week 11. Gentlemen, we've made it to week 11. This is where the rubber meets the metaphorical road. Burning rubber on the roads. Streets. Taking it to the streets. Trade deadline is over. Okay, you're going to roll with whatever teams you have. To explain this, earlier today I did post a message, but Jason and Jesse had a misunderstanding. They messaged me about this. Did allow them to resend this. A little torn about it, but I think it was the right thing to do. So if you have any issues with that, let me know. That trade did process. We had some free agents added today as well. The week preview this week, let's just go ahead and go to the scoreboard. Week 11. A lot of teams still alive. Tons of teams alive. The race is on. It's all about who can get the best record. Who can have the most points? I definitely predict that points could impact and usually do impact who gets those last playoff spots. There are some teams in this league who are looking very good at 7-3. If you get a bye, you get some money. So you know that those three teams who are at 7-3, I believe there are three. Two teams you see at 6-4, and two teams at 5-5. As well as some teams who are very alive, and we'll touch on those during the preview this week for a playoff spot as well, who are 4-6. With that being said, again, this is the way my weekly preview looks. I'm going to go to the Mighty Midgets and Luck Box here. We'll take a look at this lineup, and the one thing that I do want to state is that my anticipation is that this is not the exact lineup that Mighty Midgets puts out. I would anticipate he a lot of times makes some roster moves later in the week. I would anticipate Andre Williams. All he does is score touchdowns. We'll get in there. So you see a spread of 38.8, and you got to lean toward the 7-3 team. Adam kind of has some question marks in this. Let's forecast going forward because he certainly looks like a playoff team. With his running backs, think about where this team would be without free agency. Adam, every one of his running backs was picked up off of free agency. I don't think any of them were drafted. Actually, I know none of them were drafted. Traded for Antonio Gates. These are his two keepers who will be back in the pot next year. And they're banged up and haven't been very good. So I'm sure Adam wants to see some production from Randall Cobb and Emmanuel Sanders going into the playoffs for him to feel comfortable. But certainly you like him this week to get to 8-3 and have a really good shot at a bye. This is my newly named team. Juicing for Steve Smith. Juice me up. Playing Luke's team this week, and interesting because both of our best players are not playing. He owns D'Angelo Williams. I own Antonio Brown. Arguably the number one players at their position right now. Todd Gurley maybe at running back. My questionable tags here are all just limited Wednesday practices. So I would like to think that I will have those guys. For Luke, he has James Starks, who's taken over this job. DeMarco Murray in a great matchup with Tampa. He's a guy I'm kind of afraid of. Michael Crabtree is a top 15 receiver week in and week out due to targets. Saw a statistic. I believe Amari Cooper only has 1 or 2 red zone targets all season, which is unbelievable. It's absurd for how many catches he has. Greg Olsen, one of my favorite players, only player in the NFL to not miss a down from a skill player perspective. Plays all the time. He's on the field. Cam loves him. Plus matchup at home. Carolina's better offensively at home. But again, I will not predict this matchup because my team can't afford me to right now. What I will say is that if Luke should get a win here, and frankly, even if he doesn't, his team is dangerous going forward for the teams it plays, regardless of result here, because there is an outside chance that 6 and 7 could get in the playoffs. But certainly a big matchup for my team as well as Luke's this week. And it's kind of unfortunate that we have some brother-on-brother crime going, but playing one another this week. Here we have the Butt Buddies, and in a see the Butt Buddies who traded for Beckham isn't playing this week, so he gave Gore and Ingram. He also acquired Duke Johnson. So you look at 4 guys there who Butt Buddies had and traded and who are also on bye. So essentially, wait for it. This is a bye for Team NA. It is what it is. Um, quite frankly, these players just with the way that the Butt Buddies season has gone, it's a team that when they drafted the team, I originally said that it was my favorite team or one of my favorite teams in the league. It's amazing how fantasy football goes that way. We never know how these teams are going to shake up, who is going to be good players, who is not. Um, and this is a team between Mark and Trampus. We think that Mark actually does all the work. Trampus just takes credit for it because he's good with words, being a lawyer. By the way, the show, in case I forget, is brought to us every week. We appreciate their support. The Tesler, Adler, Whalen law firm in Noblesville. I would be remiss to ignore the fact that if you need a divorce, you have killed someone, you're considering killing someone, need to hide the body, any law problems you have, if you drink and drive habitually, which means for fun, recreationally even, Trampus drinks and drives every day, works and drives and drinks. Call the Tesla Whalen, whatever. Call Trampus. He'll take care of you. I almost want to make this my lock of the week, but I would like to see Trampus lose at 6-4. I really like Trampus's receivers. He made a big trade this week for Julio Jones. Certainly that helps his receiving core. His receivers get in the end zone every week, and he's added Jarkandrick West. Jonathan Stewart's a guy who doesn't see glory very often because Superman is stealing it. Cam Newton, those of you who aren't familiar with Cam Newton, perhaps you should be because he's good. Here we have Simply Simple Victory and 50 Shades of Clay. I know a lot of teams are looking at some of these teams with higher records and saying, okay, do I want this team to win or lose this week? Because the 7-3 teams, those of us who are struggling to get in, we really want them to keep taking care of business. But this is one where certainly it would not hurt anyone's feelings. 50 Shades gets right this week, and finally he's getting guys healthy, he's getting guys in the right spots to perhaps make a run at Simply Simple. Simply Simple is another team that's made some free agency moves. We'll see how Des Bryant pans out for him. Certainly helps him at receiver. That was a deal in which he gave Miami's running back, not Jay Ajayi, the sucky one, Lamar Miller. In that trade, Todd Gurley plus matchup at Baltimore. Marshawn's been banged up, very disappointing. But it's tough to pick against Tyler this week based on matchups. I think this is a game where the Jets control it, limit the floor. I love Derek Carr this week. If you play FanDuel, you're in a daily league. Picking 50 Shades of Clay to knock off Simply Simple this week. Devontae Adams had 24 targets, I believe it was, last week. Martellus Bennett, they're going to tell him he's the number one tight end and not randomly Zach Miller. Martellus Bennett scores 2 touchdowns this week. 50 Shades of Clay behind LaShawn McCoy, C.J. Anderson, Sammy Watkins, John Brown, the rest of the team. I think they win this week. I really do. Shake and Bake at Des for 6. This is a match that one of those I was kind of talking about. Not that I ever like to root against Jesse. Jesse, for those of you who aren't aware, we're actually brothers. I have intercourse with his mother. It is what it is. Father, son, brother. Never do I root against Jesse, and certainly this week, it would not hurt my feelings to see Jesse lose because he is 5-5, and I believe his last couple matches of the year are fairly simple. We'll steal Tyler's blog's name there. Brent's lost a couple games in a row here. I think really what's happening is some of the players who were so high have fallen off a little bit. So his running backs, specifically Latavius Murray and Devonta Freeman, we've realized that they're not Jesus on a football field. Perhaps they can't continue to produce at such a high rate. Still very good players, but it's part of why Brent's losing a little bit. He's had some bye issues, but certainly you like Brent's team from a consistency standpoint. The issue becomes is his upside guys who used to win him weeks. in previous years, AJ Green's, Demarius Thomas's, they're just not in situations to do that. And because of that, it really gives Jesse a good spot here to take advantage of a chance to win a match and continue to hang in that playoff race that, frankly, 7-6 may be good enough. But looking at this matchup here, forget the spread. This is all about two coaches who know how to motivate their athletes. Two of the best fantasy managers, all kidding aside. What I see here is a lot of stock in what's unknown with the Colts offense going forward. Brandon Marshall's been banged up, but 10 days to rest, you think he would go. Another questionable tag on Michael Floyd. Michael Floyd's always hurt, so that's not a surprise. He's also probably going to play. And Jesse rolling with a Thursday night defense this week. This is the play that scares me a little bit. I am leaning toward its Dez for 6 here, but this is a tough one for me to pick. I'm gonna pick its Dez for 6 because that's what Jesse would want me to do. He says every time I have picked him, he has lost. Here's Ram the Booty at the Lollipop Guild, and for those of you who are not aware of what has taken place, most of Chris's decent players have now been moved to other teams. But he's still throwing some really good receivers out there, and that's what I want to take a look at. Again, Amari Cooper's lack of red zone targets is somewhat alarming for a guy who has so many targets. I think as a somewhat contrarian play this week in daily, if you play daily, not that I condone it as gambling. I think it is a skill sport in football. Basketball, maybe not. I like Amari Cooper this week if you would like to stack him or play him in any fashion, because I think his play percentage is going to be down. I don't know that I will play him just because of the lack of red zone looks, but you look at the receivers on this team, and they could combine for 90 here. He has that sort of ability. He has 3 guys who can take the top off, 3 guys who are heavily targeted. Then you look at Jason's team, and I really like Blake Bortles, another guy you can consider in tonight's match if you're looking for a cheap quarterback. On the other side of that, if you do play FanDuel, I might throw a dart at Marcus Mariota, one of the cheaper quarterbacks and a very beatable. I think Tennessee is better against the run than the pass. Jacksonville is better. Jacksonville's terrible at everything. Let's not kid ourselves, but got to make a pick here. Who do I go with? I guess strength on strength. I like Rams receivers quite a bit more than over here. Lollipop did make a trade this week, and I want to say he's going to play Gio Bernard flex, and probably not Jeremy Maclin, because everybody who thought Maclin was going to have a career year, I laughed. I laughed at them. Yeah, Jeremy Maclin's trash. Drop Jeremy Maclin. Let's stop talking about Jeremy Maclin. Who are we going to pick here? You always like the Seahawks at home against San Francisco. What a great matchup that is. But, this is really the spot to do it. For my lock of the week, bet it big. Any way you look at it. This week, I am picking Rammer. He's going to say, in your face, everybody who didn't like my trades. Look at me winning. Look at me winning. Rammer stays mathematically alive for the playoffs, knocks off Jason. Guys, I tell you what, it's going to be an exciting end to the season. Now that the trade deadline is over, we can play our teams, think about that free agent budget, all those good things. In addition to the Tesla, Adler, and Wayland shout out that I am legally required to give because they do pay for the show. Still waiting on this month's payment, but they are tardy occasionally. It is what it is. One other thing I would just like to remind you of is that with Exit Music, we would like to support Chris Brown's career. So our Exit Music today is Chris Brown on the Fan of a Fan album. This is called Ayo. Good luck. Pretzel. Also restricted on Whole 30. Not anymore. Put it in my mouth.